The story begins amidst the vast, unpredictable seas, where the crew of a ship stumbles upon a woman adrift, clutching to life after her ship caught fire. Among them, a courageous man named Edmund risks everything to save her. The woman, Angel, is brought aboard, and the ship's captain, Danglars, discovers a mysterious letter in her possession. Suspicion flares when the letter reveals its sender, Napoleon Bonaparte, the dethroned Emperor of France. The next morning, Angel demands her letter back, her voice carrying an ominous warning that Danglars has made a grave mistake. But he refuses, blinded by his own arrogance. Angel, calm yet resolute, disembarks from the ship, later meeting Edmund to personally thank him for saving her life. Shortly after, Edmund and Danglars are summoned by the ship's owner, Morel, for an inquiry. Fueled by jealousy, Danglars accuses Edmund of rescuing Angel without permission. But the tables turn when Morel recognizes Angel as his trusted acquaintance. Adding to Danglars' downfall, Angel reports his misconduct, shattering Morel's trust in him. In a bold decision, Morel fires Danglars and appoints Edmund as the new captain of the ship. Overflowing with pride, Edmund rushes home to share the news with his father. Their humble home fills with joy, though his father reminds him to always remain grateful to the Moore family, who financed his education at the Naval Academy. A few days later, during a courtyard lunch, Edmund announces his promotion to the Moore family. Among the congratulations is Mercedes, a member of the Moore family and Edmund's secret love. Their joy culminates in a quiet wedding, marking a turning point in Edmund's life. His position as ship captain not only elevates his social status, but also brings him closer to Mercedes. But happiness is fleeting. During their wedding at a serene church, royal guards suddenly burst in, their swords drawn, arresting Edmund without explanation. Fernan, a member of the Moore family, demands answers, but the guards remain tight-lipped. Edmund is whisked away, leaving behind a stunned bride and broken dreams. At the prosecutor's office, Edmund's nightmare deepens. He learns he's being accused of treason for possessing the letter from Napoleon, a man now deemed a criminal. Behind the scenes, Fernan meets with the prosecutor, Villefort, offering to vouch for Edmund's release. But Fernan harbors a dark secret. He is madly in love with Mercedes. Sensing an opportunity to eliminate his rival, he refuses to help Edmund. Fernan conspires with Danglars, their hatred for Edmund fueling a plot to frame him as a traitor. Edmund is thrown into a grim, isolated prison, an oceanic dungeon, as the verdict looms. Days blur into years. For years pass, each one stealing a piece of his hope. Then, one day, a faint sound of digging breaks the monotony. Edmund investigates, discovering an old prisoner, Faria, emerging from a tunnel. Initially wary, Faria realizes he's been digging in the wrong direction. The two form a bond and begin digging together, each strike of their tools igniting a flicker of hope. As they toil under the prison's shadow, Faria shares an ancient legend with Edmund. He speaks of the Knights Templar, who amassed an unfathomable treasure during the First Crusade. Betrayed and executed under King Philip IV in 1307, their wealth was thought to be lost. But one Templar, Cardinal Sparta, survived, hiding the treasure on Monte Cristo Island. Faria, entrusted with this secret, passes it on to Edmund. After years of relentless digging, they finally sense freedom as salty water seeps through the walls. But disaster strikes. The ground collapses, fatally injuring Faria. As he takes his last breath, Faria reveals the exact location of the treasure. Guards arrive to dispose of Faria's body, wrapping him in a sack. Seizing the moment, Edmund switches places with the corpse, slipping into the sack. Unaware of the switch, the guards throw the sack into the sea. Edmund escapes underwater, emerging into the world a free man. Returning home, Edmund is shattered to find his father dead, a victim of grief and despair. Worse still, Mercedes has married Fernan and moved to Paris. Alone and betrayed, Edmund channels his pain into resolve. His mind clings to Faria's story of the Templar treasure, his only glimmer of hope. Days of sailing lead Edmund to a desolate island. Following Faria's instructions, he discovers a cave hidden near a steep cliff. Inside, a dark chasm stretches into the depths. He tosses a torch, its flame illuminating the unimaginable, a treasure beyond his wildest dreams, the legendary riches of the Knights Templar. As gold and jewels shimmer before him, Edmund realizes this treasure is not just wealth. It's his weapon, a tool for vengeance against those who betrayed him and robbed him of his life. His transformation is complete. Edmund is no longer the naive sailor. He is a man forged by pain, ready to reclaim what was stolen. A year later, a mysterious figure wearing a mask and disguised as a priest arrived in Marseilles. This enigmatic priest claimed to have been sent by none other than Edmund Dantès himself, bearing a crucial message. His first stop was to meet Gasper, a loyal crew member of Edmund's past. In a clandestine meeting, the priest handed Gasper a gleaming diamond as a token of trust. Moved by this gesture, Gasper finally revealed the treachery that had condemned Edmund to his fate. Danglars and Fernand had conspired against him. Danglars had coveted Edmund's position as captain, while Fernand had been desperate to marry Mercedes. Their betrayal was the spark that set Edmund's fiery quest for vengeance into motion. The priest, who was indeed Edmund in disguise, next visited the church where he and Mercedes had once dreamed of being wed. Standing in the same spot where their future was torn apart, he knelt and prayed, not for forgiveness, but for strength. There, he made a solemn vow to Jesus, to punish every last one of his betrayers. Edmund's next stop was a small, decrepit home, where he found Angel, an old acquaintance, gravely ill and on the brink of death. Angel confessed that she, too, had sought revenge on the prosecutor who had unjustly imprisoned Edmund. But fate had intervened. While sneaking into the prosecutor's home, she witnessed him burying a baby. This haunting scene made her abandon her vengeance and instead save the child. Now, too weak to care for the boy, she informed Edmund that the child, named Andrea, was living in an orphanage. Struck by her story, Edmund took Andrea under his wing, not out of compassion, but to use the boy in his intricate revenge plot. 5 years later, no longer a nameless prisoner, Edmund had transformed into the Count of Monte Cristo, a man of wealth, power, and unimaginable influence. His first major move was to infiltrate a ceremony honoring Fernand for his wartime contributions to France. But Edmund wasn't there to celebrate. He had already begun weaving his web of vengeance. To strike at Fernand's son, Albert, Edmund orchestrated an elaborate trap. He hired thieves to steal a medal belonging to Albert's father, luring the young man into a dark, deserted alley. As the group ambushed Albert, Edmund appeared as the heroic count, pretending to rescue him. It was all part of his design, to earn Albert's trust. The plan worked flawlessly. Days later, Albert and Fernand visited the count to return a pistol. Grateful for the rescue, Albert began to admire the count, unaware that this stranger was his father's mortal enemy. During one of these visits, Albert overheard a hauntingly beautiful melody. Following the sound, he discovered a stunning woman playing a guitar. Her name was Haydée, and Albert was immediately captivated. The count, noticing Albert's interest, introduced her as his adopted daughter, rescued from a life of slavery. What Albert didn't know was that Haydée was part of the count's grand revenge, a living weapon to destroy Fernand, the man who had murdered her father. The count's next move brought him face to face with his enemies. Disguised as the wealthy and enigmatic Monty, Edmund joined Fernand, Danglars, Villefort, the prosecutor, and Andrea for a hunting trip. As the group pursued a deer, Danglars shot it, but hesitated to deliver the final blow. He handed a knife to Monty, who coldly refused, stating he only killed in self-defense. Andrea, the child Edmund had raised, stepped forward and plunged the knife into the animal's heart, an eerie foreshadowing of the vengeance to come. After the hunt, Fernand introduced his wife, Mercedes, to the count. Though years had passed, Mercedes felt an unsettling familiarity in his gaze. The moment was brief, but the tension lingered. Not long after, Monty invited Danglars, Villefort, and Fernand to dinner at one of his lavish estates. As they arrived, Danglars' wife, Victoria, froze in shock. The estate was eerily familiar. It was a house she had once shared with Villefort during an illicit affair, years before her marriage to Danglars. As the dinner progressed, Monty spun an unsettling tale about the house. He spoke of strange noises, visions of a woman giving birth, and a man burying something in the dead of night. His story wasn't fiction. It was a carefully crafted retelling of Victoria and Villefort's buried secret. To heighten the tension, Monty led the group to a grave on the property. There, they unearthed a box, only to find it empty except for some cloth. While most of the group laughed at the spectacle, Victoria and Villefort were visibly disturbed, their shared guilt bubbling to the surface. The next day, Victoria confronted Villefort, terrified that Monty knew the truth about their past. Villefort, ever the manipulator, reassured her and vowed to uncover Monty's true identity. His search led him to a British nobleman named Halifax, seeking information about the Count of Monte Cristo. But what Villefort didn't realize was that Halifax was yet another of Edmund's disguises. The game was far from over. Each move Edmund made brought his enemies closer to their downfall. They were pawns in his grand game of vengeance, and he was the master pulling the strings. The Count of Monte Cristo was not just a man. They were about to realize he was their reckoning. Amidst the shadows of his intricate revenge, Edmund carefully orchestrated his next move. He instructed Andrea to seduce Danglars' daughter, Eugenie, while encouraging Haydée to deepen Albert's affection for her at Eugenie's grand birthday party. Meanwhile, Mercedes invited Monty for a quiet walk. As they strolled, the ghosts of her past surfaced, memories of her lost love, Edmund, flooding her heart once again. The next day, Edmund, disguised as Halifax, struck with precision. He published a fabricated report in his newspaper, claiming one of Danglars' ships had been stolen. Chaos erupted as Danglars' company shares plummeted. Panic spread among the ranks. While Fernand and Villefort suggested issuing a clarification to the public, Danglars, blinded by greed, saw this as a golden opportunity to buy back shares at a lower price, unaware that he was falling into Edmund's carefully laid trap. A few days later, whispers in the financial world predicted a rise in Danglars' shipping company shares, promising massive profits. But to seize this opportunity, Danglars, Fernand, and Villefort needed a staggering sum, 500 million francs. Desperate, they turned to Monte for a loan. Monte, the puppet master behind this financial storm, lent them the money with a subtle smile, knowing they were walking deeper into his web. The trap tightened. The next day, the trio successfully repurchased their shares, but their celebration was short-lived. They sought to clear their company's name by prosecuting Halifax for the alleged ship theft. Confident that a court trial would restore their reputation and stock value, they prepared for the legal battle. But Edmund had another ace up his sleeve. Disguised as a priest, he approached Gaspar, a former crew member of Danglars, and ordered him to gather a team to steal Danglars' ship, this time for real. The theft was timed to occur on the very day of the trial. In court, tension crackled as the prosecutor called Halifax's representative to testify. After a long, dramatic pause, Andrea stepped forward. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation. But Andrea delivered more than expected. He admitted the theft report was true and dropped a bombshell. He wasn't an Italian prince, but the illegitimate son of Villefort himself. The revelation sent shockwaves through the courtroom. Villefort, pale and trembling, abruptly left, unable to face the disgrace. The judge had no choice but to adjourn the trial amidst the uproar. However, Andrea, consumed by his own vendetta, disobeyed Edmund's instructions. In a fit of rage, he confronted Villefort and stabbed him in the neck. Guards acted swiftly, shooting Andrea as he attempted to flee. He died on the spot, his rebellion sealing his fate. At Andrea's burial, Haydée turned on Edmund, accusing him of letting his thirst for revenge claim Andrea's life. But Edmund defended himself, asserting that Andrea's demise was the result of his own reckless actions. Their argument was interrupted by Albert, who arrived after receiving a letter from Haydée. She pleaded with Albert to take her away, hoping to escape the chaos. As they prepared to leave, Monte appeared, demanding that Haydée reveal her true identity. With trembling hands, she recounted her tragic past. At just 10 years old, she had witnessed her father's brutal murder by a French officer and was sold into slavery. The officer, she revealed, was none other than Albert's father, Fernand. The revelation struck Albert like a thunderbolt. Furious at being manipulated in Monte's elaborate revenge scheme, Albert confronted Monte. That evening, Mercedes visited Monte, confessing she had always known he was Edmund but had kept it a secret. Edmund showed her the letter that had led to his imprisonment, written by none other than Fernand. Overwhelmed by guilt, Mercedes begged Edmund to punish both her and Fernand, but pleaded for Albert's life to be spared. The next day, Albert, feeling dishonored, challenged Monte to a duel. As the two faced each other, Monte deliberately fired his shot into the wall, refusing to harm Albert. Touched by this act, Albert also withheld his shot. The duel ended not in bloodshed but in reconciliation. Later, Albert reunited with Haydée, who was overjoyed to see him alive. She suggested they escape together and build a new life as a family. Meanwhile, Fernand, now aware of Monte's true identity, sought him out for a final confrontation. Armed with a sword, Fernand challenged Edmund to a duel. The clash was fierce and intense, with both men driven by years of hatred. Edmund wounded Fernand, but as Fernand's sword shattered, he managed to injure Edmund in return. Wounded and exhausted, Edmund staggered toward a nearby lake. Fernand, driven by vengeance, followed closely, ready to strike. As Fernand lunged, Edmund dodged at the last moment, causing Fernand to lose his footing and fall. With Fernand at his mercy, Edmund chose the path of forgiveness, walking away and abandoning his long-held plan for revenge. In the closing moments of the story, Edmund penned a heartfelt letter to Mercedes. She was seen praying in a church as she read his words. In the letter, Edmund assured her that their son, Albert, was happy with Haydée. He confessed his eternal love for her, but explained that he had to leave, unable to bear watching the woman he loved live a life with someone else. And so, Edmund departed, leaving behind the city, his vengeance, and the love he could never truly have. And that, my friends, is the thrilling tale of the Count of Monte Cristo, a story of love, betrayal, revenge, and redemption. From dark prison cells to lavish courts, Edmund Dantès' journey proves that even the deepest wounds can lead to unexpected paths. Did he win his revenge? Or did forgiveness become his ultimate victory? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Movies Unboxed.